Dev update. I keep forgetting to do these. I'm writing down notes while I do this, while I program this stuff, so I forget to make these videos. Anyway, it's December 19th. It is 12:35 p.m. So I don't remember where it left off, but I know it was before getting a fully working render system separate from the game tick system with interpolation. So I have done that. Now, the last update, I did go on a bit of a rant about object-oriented programming. I'm autistic, so I tend to black and white pretty easily, at least for like my initial gut reaction or whatever to things, and then, you know, I can get over that and find the gray area. That's usually the more correct area. And I kind of did that. Object-oriented programming. Now, while if you only care about, like, in terms of pure performance and efficiency, I still believe object-oriented programming is always less efficient than either purely functional or not, maybe not functional, but not object-oriented programming, because of the whole like human-based logic sets and everything and computers. But while we're writing for computers, we are humans. So set-based logic just is really nice to work with as a human being. Now, limiting yourself and not just making classes to make classes, or, you know, thinking, well, I don't need this to be in a class, or I don't need a class to do this, so I won't do that. I think that's a good idea. I think limiting that object-oriented, like overdoing object-oriented programming, is a good thing, but you need a balance, right? I mean, you can write perfectly performant code that is perfect for computers, and no human being is gonna want to fucking work with you or look at that code, you know? And while I would, like, there is something in me that's like, you know, I would like to be that pretentious, autistic, my shit is the best and you can't read it or understand it person. Like, that's kind of miserable at the same time. And while you might make one thing that is the best in its field, you know, a little bit of flexibility is also nice, and also being able to work with other people and stuff like that. So all in all, yeah, I've come around. I still try to limit the amount of object-oriented programming I do, but I don't like hate it. The engine currently, this is cool, this is fun. I'm also getting better with my perfectionism. It's like a weird perfectionism. I can't perfect it because I'm not at that level, but I'm still perfectionist about it, which means I tend to over-engineer things and just run into problems because I don't know what I'm doing. So I've been able to like limit that more and more every day. The engine currently, there is a build. The build on the main branch is a little bit behind in terms of, there's a few things in there that I like wish I had found and changed or fixed before, but it is in a state where it is finally in a state where everything works together. There is minimal hard coding. I think the hard coding is just like setting up the scene, right? Like setting up the actors in the current scene, which is a test scene, although I'm not calling them scenes, and I'll get to that in a second. But, you know, like the rendering and the tick rate and all that kind of stuff is separate and everything. The interpolation doesn't exist. That is the thing that, another thing that I wish was in that build. And it's kind of funny, it's kind of stupid. I'm not fully sure or certain. I was following a Stack Overflow explanation of interpolation, and just general idea of how to do it with it was a dual buffered state. So every actor has two render states, and the render states are just structs that have like, right now it's just position and rotation, but over time it'll include anything that will affect how they're rendered, which means like position, rotation, a different shader, whatever, like, you know, that kind of stuff. And when they update their tick, they also they get their state updated. And it just flips a buffer, puts the current state in the previous state, puts the new data in the current state, and then the renderer will use an interpolation between current state and previous state when rendering. And the issue I was running into is that it didn't look like GZ Doom, where you can turn the tick rate really low and it slows down the game, or it looks like. And that's because GZ Doom is not a dual buffered interpolation. It is like infinite buffer interpolation, or not buffer, like it's interpolation. The whole, I'm stupid because, well, I'm not stupid, but like I overlooked this, and it's really funny in hindsight. The whole reason that the states are double buffered is because this is only to account for a one tick dissonance, right? Like frames are one tick ahead or something, because that should be the worst case scenario if you have optimized your game, right? But I'm not entirely sure, because if you have a frame rate of like 144 and the tick rate is 60, would you ever have 2 frames over 1 tick? I don't know. So there actually might be an issue with how I'm doing it, and it might not be correct. But right now I've set the tick rate to be 120, because I'm just going to account for higher refresh rates, and then hopefully like later on I can try and see if I can change the interpolation to be like GZ Doom. But right now I think it's fine because it's doing what it's supposed to do. I think. I'm not entirely confident, but I haven't run into any problems so far, so I think it should be good, and it works. Currently in the production branch, there's that, and then there is my implementation of scenes. I call them theaters because I stole actors from Doom. I don't call them theaters, I call them spaces. And then my boyfriend said, hey, you should call them theaters. And it was just, you know, I'm really pissed off because it's way better, and I thought I was really clever. Anyway, so yeah, and just lots of interesting, exciting stuff. I changed the way that rendering works in the trunk right now, the main branch. It goes through the list of actors and sorts the actors and then gets the meshes of the actors. That was kind of lame. Didn't like that. That kind of like going in and then also actors had a... So the way I'm rendering right now is that I have like a couple VAOs, and because I'm using OpenGL. And I want to bind a VAO, render everything in that uses that VAO, bind a new one, render everything there. I don't want to bind. Like I only want to bind them once when I go through them, because that's data from the CPU to the GPU, and that is like, you know, very slow, and you want to minimize that. It's like, it's not super slow, but you know, it's the slowest. You want to minimize that. So I have to sort the list by what I have is I generate VAOs at the start of the game engine and put them in a vector, and then I have macros for the indices of that vector, 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever, and then I use those macros. So like there's VAO error is like the first one, and there's VAO, I think testing is the second one, and then VAO, you know, whatever. And whenever I make a mesh, I supply a VAO ID. That's what I call it. It's technically an index, right? But whatever. And then we sort the meshes by VAO ID, so that way we can just swap them when the next mesh's VAO ID doesn't match the previous one, because they're in order, and we don't have to worry about swap all the time. It's just going to be swap, render, swap, render. The way it is in the trunk of the like main branch though is that we're doing this with the actors. So the actors have to have a VAO ID pointer to their mesh's VAO ID, and that's really fucking annoying, and like I don't like it, and it's stupid. currently in the production branch, I actually have a vector of meshes. Every theater, which is like, the scene, right, where everything is, has a bunch of actors and a vector of actors, and then it makes a vector of meshes, actor pointers, because of class slicing. And then a vector of mesh pointers, which contains the meshes of the actors, and then I sort the meshes, not the actors. And then we can go through the meshes, and the meshes will have an owner. They have an owner pointer to an actor. Again, slicing. That's why I had to use pointers. Well, not that specifically. I just thought I'd bring that up. I don't know why. Anyway, they have an owner pointer to the actor that made them, and then we can get that information. It's really nice. It's really nice. So that's that, and yeah, feeling good.